Hello, this is Joshua Kirk, and you're listening to the Album of the Day podcast. On this show, I look at albums I've reviewed and speak with the musicians behind the albums, as well as their careers, discographies, and future projects. My guest today is a singer-songwriter who is continuing to make a name for himself as an unsung hero in indie rock, and that is John Ross, frontman of the New York band Wild Pink. Their latest album, A Billion Little Lights, has spawned plenty of critical acclaim and is the band's biggest breakthrough to date. This is their third full-length album, and in this interview, we discussed a variety of topics, such as musicians they've collaborated with, inspirations for the album, their latest covers EP, and more. Without further ado, I hope you all enjoy my interview with John Ross, the frontman of Wild Pink, and my second guest on Album of the Day. I'm going to start things off by asking, how did you, first, get into music and also how did your career kind of get started?
I guess my first bands were REM and Queen, but an older half sister who got me into REM.
Oh yeah, nice.
She brought over a tape of Green, REM Green.
Yeah, that's a really good album.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, and then from there, I really got into Nirvana soon after that, and that's about when I just totally became obsessed with music. But then I picked up a guitar pretty soon after that. I would say in junior high school, started to play music.
I definitely hear, REM is kind of an influence on, your own music a little bit because, jangly guitars and
totally.
Oh yeah. Speaking of, music that you're into, your band recently put out a new covers EP this April called 6 Cover Songs, and there's such a wide range of songs you cover on there. Like you've got a song by Bruce Springsteen, which doesn't surprise me, but also some songs by big pop stars like Taylor Swift or Carly Rae Jepsen. You guys also do a Coldplay song on there, and there's even a cover of the Jeopardy theme song, which everyone pretty much knows at this point. So how did you end up covering such a wide range of songs, like some that people would expect and others that fans probably weren't expecting as much?
Most of those cover songs were they were for compilations. Most of the compilations were like artist centric, like the Carly Rae and the Taylor Swift one. The Jeopardy one was part of like a TV show theme song compilation. The only ones that were like a little more open-ended with like what you could cover, that's how I did the Shane MacGowan one and the Bruce Springsteen one.
Those ones, yeah, those are pretty obvious, influences of yours, and
yeah,
and I could say personal favorites of them, or I was surprised how the Jeopardy cover panned out. It was actually a very meditative take on it, even though it still had that do
right,
that everyone knows. And also the Shane MacGowan cover was interesting, how you kind of took it to a different place, but it still very much had that that Irish kind of folk melody to it, without, even though it didn't have the banjo and accordion and stuff like that from the original.
Right, yeah, those two are my favorite, I think, from that EP.
So during the cycle for your last album, which was Yolk and the Fur, came out in 2018, you talked about making a concept double album about the American West, and you eventually decided to make just one album instead, where the West is not a strict concept, but it still comes through in a lot of the lyrics on multiple songs. Take, for example, one of the album's singles, Oversharers Anonymous. How would you say your interest in the West has impacted your creative process over time?
The double album concept, I probably just shouldn't have said that when I did, you know. I was just really excited about this idea at the time. But we were touring the West Coast for the first time. When I started writing the record around the time we did a West Coast tour, and had just watched Ken Burns' The West, and there's another one. It was the Lewis and Clark one.
Oh yeah, and I also saw an article in Vulture. You also cited, The Earth is Weeping, like that Indian Wars Chronicle as an inspiration.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. This was all going on at the same time, you know? And so that's where the idea started. I think I spent so much time writing the album, or like there's so much time between when I started and when I actually got to record it, that the idea for it just changed completely, you know? Yeah, there's like a handful of tunes that will be on this EP that's coming out, the 3 songs. The long short of it is I definitely broke up this initial idea into 2 different ideas.
I've always really liked concept albums, and that this happens a lot with like indie folk, or like it happens a lot with like hip hop as well. So I do dig that sort of narrative, but I think it was kind of smart you decided to take this idea and basically turn it into like 2 different ones, and it kind of benefits the record in a way.
Yeah, it's definitely still in the album's DNA.
Yeah, and also like Overshares Anonymous, like not just the lyrics, but also like the ending with the fiddles and the pedal steel. Like that's definitely
Totally.
transportive for sure. Uh,
Yeah.
well, another thing I noticed when listening to the album were like the multiple references you have embedded in the lyrics, like on the song Bigger Than Christmas, you reference reading about the Troubles and listening to the Pogues. And then you also reference iconic movies, like on Family Friends, you reference Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And then on the opening lyric, on the song Pacific City, you reference Heat, an iconic crime drama from the 90s. So, what kind of relationship would you say you have? Like some of these things you're referencing in your lyrics.
Sometimes like vegging out and watching a movie or a show or something,
Yeah.
and just like strumming a guitar kind of mindlessly. There, like a lot of ideas kind of start there, you know?
Yeah, that's what we've all been doing that last year pretty much. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I understand that. For the opening lyrics of Family Friends, you say how every day is Groundhog's Day, and you're just writing in the afternoon, and you have Temple of Doom in the background on mute.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, as for musicians on the record, it includes you like playing most of the stuff, like the guitars, the bass lines, and even all the synthesizers that create that atmosphere, that bed. But then it also has your drummer Dan Keegan, Mike Slomo Brenner, who plays pedal steel throughout the record, Sarah Williams Larson, who does some of the violin like string playing on the album, as well as Stephen Chen providing some saxophone. And the record is also produced by David Greenbaum, who's worked with everyone from Beck, U2, and Cage the Elephant, and Ellis Ludwig Leone, who does all the string arrangements. So, like, how did all this collaboration come about and ultimately impact the outcome of the album?
Well, it was something that was like gradually an idea that was growing through the first 2 records, which the first record was just strictly a 3-piece.
Oh yeah, like well, I could tell from listening to it just how stripped back it sounded.
Yeah, yeah, you can totally hear it. And then Yoke and the Fur, it got a little more expansive. It was all really exciting to like kind of expand the sound, and I just knew I wanted to really go for it in terms of expanding the sound on this record. And so I pretty much just called on a lot of people that I knew, and asked them to join. Met a lot of new people that way as well.
Really, this album is probably the most rich in terms of pulling from genre. I mean, it's got elements of heartland rock and obviously indie rock, but I'm hearing more like alternative country. And the cool thing about shoegaze is the way that like a lot of that kind of music tends to take a variety of instruments and kind of put lots of reverb on it, and sort of takes it to a whole new place. Like I thought it was really cool, like the hints of glockenspiel that had that little bit of reverb on them. Oh yeah, and obviously I noted in my review that instead of watering down your sound, all of this added instrumentation actually further refines the Wild Pink sound, like creating a three-dimensional and exhilaratingly beautiful atmosphere. So therefore, the beauty of your music is only taken to the next level here on this new album. But one collaborator or contribution that really stood out to me was Julia Steiner, the lead singer from Rat Boys, who does a lot of the backing vocal harmonies. And I felt adding her voice actually added a whole new dimension to the emotional resonance of certain songs. So, I wonder kind of how her voice ended up becoming a big part of the record.
Well, I've known her for a while now. We did some touring. Well, we love Rat Boys, and just became fast friends with them. And it just seemed like a no-brainer. I wanted to really elevate the vocals overall on this album. I knew early on I wanted Julia to do it, and she did.
I really like hearing her like perfect pitch on songs like "The Shiny but Tropical" or like "Family Friends" on the second chorus. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was uh, really cool.
yeah,
Yeah, one thing I noticed with Yolk and the Fur is that it was basically just your voice with like very little overdubs, but like on this album, there's more double tracking and stuff like that.
yeah. We experimented with some vocoder, and we're just trying to try some new things out.
Oh yeah, I could hear some vocoder like on The Shining but Tropical, like on those vocal harmonies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's similar to how you know, I really liked the way Casey Musgraves used vocoders quite a
Oh
bit
yeah,
on Golden Hour. Like, yeah,
totally.
and speaking of collaboration, I do want to touch on the music videos for the album, specifically the one for The Shining but Tropical, which stars Canadian actress and comedian Annie Murphy, who a lot of people know from the sitcom Schitt's Creek, and it is shot in the woods near Tamworth, Ontario. It also has plenty of beautiful visuals that really highlight the song's many moods and emotions. So, how did you cast Annie Murphy in the video for The Shiny but Tropical, as well as shot it in the Ontario woods?
Was she came up with the idea and shot it at her family's hunting cabin? It's been in her family for a while, and may or may not be haunted. She came up with the idea. It's based on a relative of hers who I think passed away at that cabin, if I remember correctly. She's just awesome. She kindly did that, and yeah,
Oh yeah, and I thought because really the thing with music videos, I really like those ones where it's sort of produced like a movie in a way, where it's like it's about how it's shot and also the performance leaving an impression, and I thought it was cool to see. So I pretty much touched on kind of the album itself. Now I want to go over to like the album's reception. The record currently holds a 72 out of 100 on Metacritic based on mostly favorable music critic reviews, but it also holds an 88 out of 100 for user critics, showcasing almost unanimous praise from you know just general music listeners or like fans. How do you feel about like how the record is being received by the public?
well, I'm like super pumped. It's mostly positive, and I thought that the album didn't end up being what I initially set out to be,
Yeah.
and I didn't know if that would have any change the the reception in any way. But I don't know. It seems like it was just generally positive, and I'm glad for it.
I did see your album. I've seen it on a few like best of the year, like mid year lists. Like, you know, of course, Up Rocks. Loves your album. I know it was included in like Stephen Hyden's favorite albums of the year so far, and really it was people like him and Ian Cohen who like co-host IndieCast. That's kind
Yeah,
of what inspired me to listen to your music because they wouldn't stop talking about you and stuff like that. And
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm grateful to both of them for chatting it up.
I agree with everyone who loves the record. Like it spoke to me on an emotional level, and yeah, obviously I also mentioned what I liked about the production. So definitely uh, an album of the year contender for me. Uh,
That's awesome. Thank you.
I, so staying on the topic of promotion, your band is about to co-headline with Rat Boys on a fall 2021 tour. Obviously, this is the first tour you've been able to do since COVID shut down all live music in March of 2020. Uh, and even though live music seems to be making an optimistic return this year, there's still a lot of uncertainty as to how it'll all pan out. So, are you hopeful that this tour will pan out the way you hope it will?
Yeah, I feel like it's looking like it's actually going to happen. I mean, anything could happen, with COVID and new strains. It's just like impossible to
Yeah.
say, but it seems things seem to be going in the right direction.
Another thing you're about to do is uh, your band is also about to release the 3 songs EP on
Right.
June 25th, your second EP of 2021. And the opening track and first single that was released was a collaboration with singer songwriter Samia titled Ohio. And I did feel her voice, really added to like the already gorgeous vibe of the instrumentation. So, how did this collaboration come about?
We just had some mutual friends, basically, when we'd see each other around occasionally at shows. I'd seen her perform a few times. She kindly agreed to sing on this song, and like she just totally makes it.
Oh yeah. So I've kind of highlight all the things you're about to do this year. But any other plans for the future, like writing more songs, preparing for the next album, collaborating with other musicians?
Yeah, I'm in all the above. Like I'm writing now, working on a new record now, hoping to collaborate with more folks on this one, do some more touring and yeah, basically just keep going. Yeah.
I pretty much knew this year was kind of gonna be your big breakthrough, as this the same time that I'm just now getting into your music is kind of the same time that I think a lot of people are now. Uh,
Yeah, I think so too.
the so it's good to see and it feels just right that it's all happening when life is starting to get back to normal slowly but surely.
Totally.
Because
Yeah.
this album in a way, yeah, kind of speaks to our current moment. Well, thank you very much for being my guest and sharing your
Thanks for
thoughts
having
on
me.
A Billion Little Lights on
Really
Album of the
appreciate
Day.
it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Would you mind sharing with our listeners where we can find you on social media?
We're Wild Pink NYC on Twitter and Wild Pink on Instagram. And I think the same on Facebook.
Glad you were able to do this, and hopefully I'll be able to see your band live one day. That'd be
That'd be great.
pretty
Would
amazing.
love that. Thank you,
I
Joshua.
see. Bye.
Later.
If you want to see my review of A Billion Little Lights, just check out the link below in the description. Also be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a nice comment. If you have any suggestions for future improvements I could make to the show, I'd be glad to hear them. You can also find me at my Facebook and Twitter links, which are also down below. Album of the Day is edited by Louisa Phillips, and you can find her at louisaphillipsmedia.com. Thank you to John Ross of Wild Pink for participating, and to you for listening. Have a good day, everyone.